Namaskaram and Shubha Navaratri to all of you. It is a bhagyam to spend this time with all of you who are here in person and all of you who are watching this virtually. I'm sure it's been said already, but if your phones can be where they should be, which is in your bag for the next 1.5 hours, and not on the loudest possible mode, that would help us. Also, before we begin, I just want to give a few disclaimers. This is not an academic session. So if you are hearing something and you feel, oh, I've missed taking a note about it, it's okay. Whatever is meant to go in, will go in. Whatever is meant to germinate, will germinate when it has to. So be under no pressure of any sort, because the approach in a scholarly session is very different, and the approach in heart sessions is very different. And this is moving entirely from the latter space. So with that, Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. We sit here at the dawn of Navaratri. Navaratri has just begun. And the beautiful sankalpam that everybody has taken is that collectively we are spending about 4.5 to 6 hours sitting here the next 3 days listening to one story. So the question that I'm going to invite you to ask yourself before we begin is, what are you seeking from this story? Because the beauty of Bhagavad Katha is, irrespective of what the question is, irrespective of how personal the question is, Bhagavad Katha, which looks like a one-size-fits-all, has an answer for every single being. So if there is something that you are seeking, the answers are hidden in here. And mark my words, you will find them. All you have to do is be open to receiving them. There is a very beautiful and a very appropriate story in this context. It's about how when we are waiting for a message, the message can come from any side. So there is this man who captures a parrot when he goes to a forest. And this is in the mountains. So he captures this parrot and puts it into a cage and brings it all the way to his home. And he keeps the parrot there. The parrot is very unhappy. So one day he looks at the parrot and he says, I'm going back to that same forest in the mountains for a trek where I captured you. Maybe your friends are all there and they miss you. I'll ask them if they have anything to say to you, if they have any messages for you. But whatever they say, I'm not going to leave you. So the parrot says, okay. What can he do? He is captive. So this man goes back. He goes back to the same forest and he tells all these parrots, you remember? One of your friends here is missing because I took him and went. Do any of you have anything to say to him? I will relay that message. So many of them say, please ask him to come back. We really miss him. Please set him free. This man ignores all of that. He says this to one parrot. One parrot is sitting on the branch, and the moment he tells this parrot that I took your friend and I've kept him in my cage, this parrot just drops onto the floor. So he thinks, oh, this must be a mate of that parrot. And now hearing that that parrot is with me and I've captured it, this one's heart has broken. What can I do? It's died now. What can I do? So he goes back to his home. He goes to the parrot in the cage and he says, I told all your friends that you were with me and that I'm not going to release you. One of them, as soon as I told her this, she dropped dead onto the ground. Hearing this, the parrot inside the cage also dropped. And then the man thought, oh God, this guy is also dead. And he opened the cage door and the parrot flew out. And he said, that was my friend in the forest giving me a message of how to escape. Everyone else was telling me you have to escape. My friend there was giving me that message. Why I'm sharing this story is, this is what Bhagavad Katha is. It can look plain and simple. This Katha can finish in 3 sentences. Devi killed Madhu Kaitabha. Devi killed Mahishasura. Devi killed Shumba Nishumba. For that 3 days, 6 hours, sir. The beauty is when you sit and you're willing to sit with what comes from here, the messages become personal. If there is any space of your life that you want to build, Navaratri is the time for that. Navaratri is that sadhana kalam. Navaratri, beyond color coordination on each day, is a time period. It's a collective of 9 nights where we have the potential to reorganize something that's happening here. Because the energies in the universe support us. And the easiest way to do that is Bhagavad Katha. If there is something physical on your mind that is bothering you, something material, the answers to that will be here. If there is something spiritual that you are seeking, the answers to that will be here. Everything is here. You just have to know how to look for it. So, with that invitation, we go into Bhagavad Katha. And into what Katha? Into one extraordinary Katha. I know you must be thinking, every time he starts, he says that. But I can't help it. The nature of this is like that. This Katha has a markedly different place in Sanatana Dharma. The Katha that we are about to share, which I already gave you a prelude to, predominantly has three main stories to it. The Prathama Charitra, the Madhyama Charitra, and the Uttara Charitra. Where do we find this Katha? This Katha is a congregation of, I think, 518 shlokas, but it is known as the Saptashati, which means 700. If you actually take the number of shlokas, it will not be 700. There are 700 mantras in here. So for that reason, they have called it as Saptashati. What Saptashati is it known as? Durga Saptashati, Chandi Saptashati. But the actual title given to this, as many of you would be knowing, is Devi Mahatmyam. Saptashati came more as a reference, saying that it has 700 mantras / shlokas. Where do we find this? Why I say that this is extraordinary is based on where we find it. We find this in the Markandeya Puranam. Now this portion that we find in the Markandeya Puranam, called the Devi Mahatmyam, is the only portion of any Puranam which is used in a homam. When we perform any homam, be it a Lalita homam, be it a Rudra homam, be it a Dhanvantri homam, Sudarshana homam, various types, we do not directly use a Purana Katha to offer the Ahutis, except in this case. Many of you would be familiar with the concept of Chandi homam. It is especially well known during Navaratri time. It is typically done on Ashtami and Navami at that time. This practice of Chandi homam, of Chandi Parayanam, is one thing that is common across Shakti Sadhana in this country and beyond. Because if you look at geographically the growth of Shakta, of the Shakta philosophy, in Dakshina Bharatam, especially in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and in Andhra Pradesh, is where you see Srividya Sampradaya. But for the rest of the country, in many portions, it is Chandi. So you go to the north, it is Chandi Part. You go to the east, towards Bengal side, there also it is Chandi Part. You go towards the west, all of the Garbha and where Navaratri happens with Dandiya, there also it is Chandi Part. In the south also it is Chandi Parayanam. The suffixes are changing, but the essence is Chandi is everywhere. So this particular story has a very powerful and a very prominent place when it comes to Shakti Sadhana. That placement is because of the magic in here. And for the next 3 days, that's all we are going to do. We're just going to unfold that magic and see what comes and speaks to us. Because this story starts itself with a very interesting context. The story setting is indicating that the Rishi has something in mind. The Rishi begins, Markandeya begins saying, come, let me tell you in detail the story of the one who is about, or the one who became the 8th Manu. So every time, the concept of time in Sanatana Dharma is that time is ruled by, there are certain periods of time that are ruled by different Manus. In the present context, we are in the Manvantara. Manvantara is because it belongs to Manu, ruled by Vaivasvata. So we say Vaivasvata Manvantare on a daily basis in the Sankalpam. So he says, let me tell you like this, the story of the 8th Manu. But if you read this story, left to right, right to left, front to back, back to front, Manu comes in one place in this story. But a Rishi is speaking. And a Rishi is saying, I'll tell you the story of the 8th Manu. But he's not telling the story of the 8th Manu. So is it a lie? A Rishi will not speak a lie. The first shloka of Chandi Saptashati itself is a mystery. But that we will not reveal just now. So keep this in mind. He's saying, I will tell you the story of a Manu. But he begins with something else. He has an intention. Let that intention emerge when it has to. And then he starts off. He starts off not with Devi's story. He starts off with the story of one king who lived very comfortably, who lived with power, with fame, with glory, until enemies attacked his kingdom. And when they attacked his kingdom, he realized that he was no longer happy here. In his own kingdom, he was being treated like a prisoner. So on the pretext of hunting, he comes off to the forest. And when he comes to the forest, he doesn't want to go back. His heart is broken because he's seen his enemies enter the kingdom. And just imagine what it would feel like. We don't have to be kings to imagine it. Imagine if someone came and took over our home and everybody who was loving towards us is now paying attention to that person. This is happening at a royal scale. That's all the differences. And he says, I wonder how my elephant is doing. I used to take care of that elephant with so much love. I don't know if they're feeding that elephant the right grain or not. I wonder, my ministers who used to say, oh Raja, you are the most fantastic one. Now they'll be saying the same things to the other person. Extremely normal human problems. No Vedanta Jnanam here to begin with. And as he's going through in the forest like this, he comes across an ashram of a rishi. He goes into this ashram, and even in this ashram, physically he's in the ashram, mentally he's in his kingdom. The first message in Chandi Saptashati is here. For all those people who say, bah, idella bittu, nanu mountains hogbidtin pa. Body can go to the mountains. Mind, if it's still stuck here, if it's also of no use. The king is only in these beautiful settings, but his mind is still troubled. And when he's sitting here like this, he meets someone else. So this king, whose name is Surata, remember these names, okay? Because on the third day, they will come back. And in between, to check whether you're awake or not, I'll ask you their names as well. This king, Surata, meets someone else who has also come. And he says, who are you? He says, my name is Samadhi, and I am here because my wife and my children threw me out of the home because I was no longer an earning member. So this king is concerned, and also misery loves company. Up till now, in the ashram, everybody is so happy except this king. Now he has seen one more face that is pulled down like his, so he's happy. Abba, this fellow is also not well. Good. Something is common now between. I don't have to feel like I'm the only one here. In fact, there was one commentary on Chandi Saptashati that I was reading, and the commentary begins with literally this sentence. The English translation of the commentary begins with the sentence, 2 unlucky losers meet in a forest. But thankfully, our rishis did not resort to language like that, because the naming that they used and the context that they set. So look at one king. The first person, the king, Surata is deeply disturbed by the enemies attacking his kingdom. And his mind is still on the kingdom. Now he meets Samadhi. Samadhi has been thrown out of his home. And Surata asks him, what are you thinking about? He says, I'm thinking about my children. Are they well? Are they well mannered? Are they badly behaved? Are they taking care of each other? Is everything okay with them? And Surata says, oi, my problem at least is real, pa. I had actual enemies come in. In your case, your family has thrown you out and you still are actually thinking about their welfare. How is this? He says, what can I do? Even though I know they've thrown me out, even though I know they are bringing me pain, I'm not able to stop thinking of them. Look at this. Now is it becoming an extremely personal story? In our own lives, there are many a case when people close to us bring us pain and we're unable to distance ourselves from them. We're still going back into cycles of constantly thinking about them. Then what do both of these people do? They go into the ashram of the rishi whose ashram they are sitting in, and that rishi, by name Sumedha, they go, they offer their namaskarams to Sumedha, and then they begin. So Surata introduces himself and Samadhi, and his introduction is very interesting. This is also a lesson in human psychology. As soon as he goes, he says, my name is Surata, I used to be a king, etc., etc. This is Samadhi, this is his backstory. And you know what? We are here suffering. And even though we know, even though we are jnani nam api he says, even though we are jnanis, we are suffering. Why? That question is indicating how much arrogance is there, how much unconscious arrogance is there in the person who's asking. And immediately Sumedha looks at him. Sumedha, the rishi, looks at both of them and he says, what jnanam are you speaking of? Jnanam is something birds have, animals have, human beings have. Every living being has jnanam. Every living being knows how to feed itself to survive. Every living being knows what to do to avoid attack by a predator and to keep itself alive. That jnanam every being has. Which jnanam you are talking about? And then Sumedha starts. They have come to ask. Now look at this context. There is one person who is struggling and saying, enemies are attacking, it's bothering me. There is another person who is saying, even though they are enemies to me, I'm not able to stop thinking of them. Put them into one character, and one person had exactly this same problem when he entered the battlefield, and he said, I can't fight them, they're not my enemies, they're my family. I don't want to fight them. What do I do? Who is that? And then, who became the guru to Arjuna? How many shlokas in that? How many here? The connection starts here. That Bhagavad Gita is called as Upadesha Saptashati. This is Upasana Saptashati. There are two different terms, meaning that this is the one you worship, and this is identical to that. The Tattvam is hidden from the context. Here, it is two beings that have come. There, Arjuna Vishada Yogam is one entire chapter. Here, it starts off. And Sumedha talks to them and he says, you think you are jnanis, no? Look at the world around. Don't think that what has happened to you is happening because or despite you being a jnani. There is something in this universe that is fooling and deluding every single being in the universe. And he gives two beautiful examples. He says, look at birds. If you look at birds that have just hatched eggs, they will take 2x the effort to find food and come. They will be starving. They know that they are starving, but they will still feed their children. He says those birds are getting deluded by some power. Birds that will otherwise take care of themselves. And the second example he gives hits home a little harder. He says, look at parents who have children and pour love on them only to expect things back from their children. They are also deluded by some super force. These birds also, animals also, everything in this universe is deluded by some force. What is that force and who is deluding us? Now it's nice. No, till now if you told me problem is in my mind, I didn't like it. Now you told me nindala problem. Actually it's coming from there. It's very relaxing, saying okay, then tell me who it is. But Sumedha is not a storyteller. Sumedha is a guru. So Sumedha says, let me tell you about the one that is deluding. And the curiosity comes now. So he says, who is this? So Sumedha says, this deluding force is not an ordinary force. In Sanskritam, whenever there is a parabhavam, an uttamottama bhavam, when they want to show something in the highest order, they use the words maha. Because maha indicates that we translate it as great, but maha is it's a feeling greater than great. So he says, this deluding force, this delusion is called as Maya, and the one who is causing it is called as Mahamaya. And he says, tell me about the Prabhavam, tell me about the Swarupam, tell me about the Udbhavam, where did she come from? What is so unique about this Mahamaya? And then Sumedha starts and he says, this Mahamaya is clouding the universe. In every atom she is there. But she takes a form whenever her devotees need her. Sumedha is saying it in third person. Krishna Paramatma said it in first person. That's all the differences. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyathanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamya. At that time I will come for my bhaktas. And same thing Sumedha says about her. Only the gender is changing. Let's not worry about that. Let's focus on the tattva. So he begins the story of Mahamaya and he says, look at this beautiful story and the context. Here are two beings who came here asking about their problems. And here is someone telling them a seemingly unconnected story. Saying, oh, you're having this problem, I'll tell you a story. He should listen to their problem, no? No. He knows what the pain point in their story is. So the beauty of the three Charitrams is, there are two people here whose hearts are burning. And in these three stories, one story is told for both of them together. One story is told for the king, whose name is? And one is told for the merchant, whose name is? Samadhi. In this extremely personal retelling, he doesn't say, Surata, this portion is for you. He just begins the story and we understand, oh, this is why it is being told for Surata. So here is how the context begins. He says, at the very beginning of time, before this yugam began, before this Mahayugam began, for those of you who are interested in mathematics, which I am certainly not, but I will just relay some information to you. that the concept in Sanatana Dharma is Kalam is Kala Chakram. It is cyclic, so it's not linear. So time constantly repeats itself. There are certain mathematic calculations as to how much time before makes one yuga. Within one yuga, or rather extending from one yuga, we have 4 yugas which make one Mahayuga. So from here you get various measurements or various units of time. So now, the current time that the story is starting in, which Sumedha is telling them, is the time between 2 kalpas. And just to translate the mathematics, for those of you who are interested, 4 crore 32 lakh earth years make one Mahayuga. 71 Mahayugas make one Manvantara. Okay, so I really don't know how much that adds up to. But the point here is that it is showing you a seemingly large span of time. This is for all those of us who were worried 2 years ago that the earth was going to end or something like that. No, there was some 2019 or a couple of years ago, according to some calendar. Relax, we have lots of time. And this story is about time. So, the context is beautiful. In between 2 phases of creation, in between these, everything goes back to the source. Nothing gets destroyed. Destroying is a word that we translate. Everything gets dissolved. In Sanskritam, the concept of dissolution is called as laya. When that laya is strong and everything goes back to where it came from, into that one source, prakrushta laya it is called. Prakrushta laya is pralaya, what we know it as. When that laya is so strong, it is also known as Mahalaya. We just had a Mahalaya Amavasya, where all the beings that are not physically present with us get pulled back into the source. There are various interpretations and understanding of it, but it is indication of the dissolving nature of how everything goes back and it gets hidden. Who sees it? The one who is responsible for everything and will start the new cycle, it goes back into that being. So, in this state where it's all gone back, and the next stage is about to start. Now, the next stage is about to start. This is Srishti Purva Sthiti. In this context, just when Srishti is getting created, Paramatma, that source into which everything is gone, it's formless. It has Nirguna Nirakara Parabrahma. It has no characteristics. It has no form. Everything has gone back into it. But now it's starting again. So everything that went in must now germinate. So the concept of it emerging is Paramatma. When Paramatma has to create, Paramatma will take a form. Paramatma is Sarvavyapaka. Paramatma is Nirakara. But when Paramatma has to take a form, Paramatma becomes Sakara, with an Akara. So, he takes that form from which everything germinates. I use the words Nirguna and Nirakara. Nirakara became Sakara. He took a form. What is that form? Lying on the endless waters of time, seated on, or rather reclining on a snake itself that represents time, Sankarshana, or Adi Ananta Sesha, on that snake, the Lord was reclining. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham. That Swarupam here, the 3 gunas also have to come from him now. Because Srishti only comes into being when the 3 gunas are there. The 3 gunas make up this Srishti. From the 3 gunas come the Panchamahabhutas. This will go into a lot of technical philosophy. But we will focus on the essence. The first guna is which one? So first one is Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna came from his Nabhi Kamalam. From his navel came a lotus, and on that lotus Brahmadeva sat. In this story, Brahmadeva represents Sattva Guna. Sattva has come, not the restaurant. I'm talking about the Gunam. The other 2 have to come. Rajam, Rajogunam and Tamogunam. Where do they come from? Vishnu Karna Malodbhutau. From Vishnu's earwax came 2 Rakshasas. These were Rajogunam and Tamogunam. Now, the Mahatmyam, Devi Mahatmyam, you have to read every shlokam so carefully because the Rahasyams will be hidden here. Madhu and Kaitabha have come from here. Brahma has come from here. Think. This story will make you think. That means Vishnu is the father to Asuras also. Asuras have also come from him. Devata has also come from him. What is the connection? Vishnu is Chaitanyam, consciousness. From consciousness, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas will come. Consciousness is not affected by them. Vishnu is beyond them. And that state that he is in is truly beyond them because he is in a state of restful awareness. He is resting, but he is aware of what's happening. But the beautiful word that Sanatana Dharma coins for this, no, there isn't a translation available or a translatable available. It says, so in the context of rest, when we lose any contact with the external world, that state of rest is called as nidra. It happens to us on a daily basis, right? We lose connection with the external world. We lose connection even with the body when we are sleeping. This is nidra, which is rest, as I said. The second word, restful awareness. Awareness in Sanskritam is yoga. Awareness is when you are alert about everything that's happening inside and outside. The problem is these two don't exist together. Awareness and rest are not working together. The only person whom they can work together is Paramatma. That is why Vedam uses that word for him, saying he is in a state of yoga nidra. Yoga is awareness, nidra is lack of awareness. In that one person who they are together, they are there. Now, Yoga Nidra is a very, very beautiful concept. And there are many people sitting here who understand it much better than I do. But I'll just present to you the idea of what is this Yoga Nidra. Because Yoga Nidra is not ordinary sleep. We don't use it when we sleep on a daily basis. The concept of Yoga Nidra is, in that state of rest, is the preparation for the next phase that Paramatma is doing at a cosmic level. That happens annually as well. Within the year, for 4 months, Narayana goes into that Yoga Nidra that starts in Ashada Masam and goes on till Kartika Masam. When he goes to sleep, not an ordinary sleep, Shayana Ekadashi and Prabodha Ekadashi, in Kartika Shuddha Ekadashi when he awakens. The idea here is, in this Nidra, the whole universe goes into him and from there he starts to create. But the thing about Nidra is, Nidra has to leave us for us to get up. This doesn't require any philosophy to understand, no? In the morning, there are people who expand this very beautifully in their discourses. As a child, in the night, if you have to make your kid sleep, parents will understand this. The same parent who's putting their kid to bed is the same parent who's waking them up, right? In these two states, the parent is appearing to wake up the child saying, "Oi, wake up, yeah, time for your bus." The parent is appearing to put the child to bed. But something inside is making that child sleep. Something inside is making that child get up. Unless that goes out, the child will not get up. And unless that goes in, the child will not sleep. We are looking at the external causes. Look inside. Look inside and observe what is making us sleep. Now, the context is set. Paramatma, Chaitanyam, Sattva Buddhi, Rajo Buddhi, Tamo Buddhi. Sattva Buddhi, as soon as it comes, it's sitting quietly. The indication of Sattva Gunam. Sattva Gunam makes us quiet. It makes us stop. We're not concerned with what's happening outside. As soon as the other two came, the Shlokam says it so beautifully. It says, as soon as they came, they wanted to go and fight with somebody, saying, who's there to fight with? That is Rajogunam. If you cannot, you're fundamentally unhappy, you're restless inside, you will see, how can I go poke that next person? What can I say to him which will trouble him and not give him sleep? That's exactly what these Rakshasas are embodying. These are just things that are happening inside our head that need to poke somebody, that need to say something. He said that to me last time we met. Tomorrow when I meet him, no, I'll say this to him. Human tendencies, Rajogunam. It means Rajogunam is active. Tamogunam is very relaxed on the contrary. Tamogunam will say, Solpa, can we just not do anything at all? That is Tamoguna Lakshanam. Now, Rajogunam and Tamogunam have come out. As soon as they've come out, they want to fight because that's their nature. So they look. Nodidre, this guy is fast asleep. No sign of him getting up. Normal Nidra only is so difficult to wake somebody out of. Yoga Nidra, imagine. Then they see, hey, there is a stalk from his lotus. Let's see who's there. And then they climb over there. And then they go on there and they found somebody. That's all they want. Rajogunam always wants company. Because you need somebody to fight with, no? So they look, that poor man up there, he knows how to write Vedas. He really doesn't know how to engage in combat. So he looks and he's immediately perturbed. And then they realize, this old man, no point in fighting with him, pa. So they come down. And as they do this, when they are attacking him and they are threatening him, Brahmadeva, Sattva Gunam, is in a problem. The state of mind that if I am in a problem, I don't know what to do, I pray to God, that Sattvagunam, it does exactly that over here. Brahmadeva is very perturbed now. So the first thing he does is, he looks at Vishnu. Vishnu is asleep. And he's thinking, I have to do stotram to the one who is making Vishnu sleep. Because if she leaves his body, only then can I wake him up. That bhavam. Why doesn't he do a stuti to Vishnu directly? Because he's aware that there is a Shakti which is in Vishnu's eyes, which is in Vishnu's nose, which is in his ears. Just think about a daily sleep. When you're in a deep sleep and if somebody calls out to you, you don't hear it. When you're in a deep sleep. If you're in a light sleep, it's a different story. But when you're in a deep sleep, even though you are being called out to, you don't hear it. So you shouldn't, Brahmadeva realizes, I shouldn't be calling him. I should be calling the one who is making him sleep like this. This idea, Brahma recognizes there is a Shakti inside him that is making him sleep. If that Shakti leaves him, he will get up. So Brahma begins a stotram. Now this bhavam you see, you will see an upasana margam in this. That you have to take the Shakti's help to reach Paramatma. That is the same bhavam with which Sri Vaishnavism also operates. That you need Lakshmi's support to reach Narayana. You cannot reach Narayana directly. It's an adaptation of this very concept. Now, there are Narayana Bhaktas sitting here, so for this is being said. Now, as soon as Brahmadeva begins this stuti, he does an extraordinary stuti called as Ratri Suktam. This is not a Suktam, strictly speaking. Suktams are what we find in the Vedas. But this is distinctly called as a Ratri. He does a stuti to Ratri. Ratri. We are in Navaratri. Something powerful about the idea of night. Because night in Sanatana Dharma is not seen as something where everything is dark. It becomes a metaphor for something. It becomes a metaphor for a resting place. It is called as Jagat Layasthanam is Ratri, where the whole world gets dark. Simply don't say, oh, but in the other half of the world it's bright. They'll also have Ratri, 12 hours before or after you. That's all the differences. So when everything goes within, that Ratri state is also very frightful. Because we don't know what will happen in that time. If you just think about earlier times, when we would probably live in time, places closer to forests, it's at night time that you fear the predators the most. Even now, it's at night time that we fear thieves and we fear all of these beings around us, right? In daytime, when there's sunlight, there's no worry. But in Ratri, anything can happen. Ratri Kalam is Sadhana Kalam. Ratri is a very, very powerful time when we also lose consciousness, because that's what happens to us. No, that's how our clocks are designed within, that we typically sleep in the night and wake up in the morning. So Brahmadeva begins a Ratri Suktam. Why I use the word Suktam is there are various Ratri Suktams that you find in Vedas. There is a Rigvediya Ratri Suktam. There are different portions in different Vedas that you find. There is a Samavediya Ratri Suktam, and in that it is said that those who do the Ratri Suktam with extreme devotion to Ratri Devi, to Jagat Janani as Ratri Devi, she will appear if their mantra, if their suktam has been powerful, after some point she will appear and she will tell them, in so and so manvantara, in so and so samvatsara, in so and so ayana, in so and so paksha, in so and so masa, in so tithi, in so nakshatra, at so and so time, you will leave your body. Now, when you leave your body, these are all the lokams that are available for you. Which one do you want? A true bhakta will say, Amma, I don't want any of those, I want you. Then she'll pull him into herself. That is Ratri Devi. But now please don't go looking for which Ratri Suktam this is. Can I also start to chant this from today? Because the objective is not the phalam she gives. The objective is Ratri Suktam is that powerful. But in the Vedams, there are niyamas, there are rules involved, there are swaras, there are a host of complications. In this book, the Ratri Suktam that Brahmadeva gives us, everybody can read. That is the beauty of Chandi Saptashati. On one side, there is the Sannivesha, there is the context. On the other side, there is the stuti. There are 4 phenomenal stutis that come in this entire 700 shloka series. The first one comes in Prathama Charitra, in chapter 1. This one is called as Brahmadeva Kruta. Kruta means recited by or created by. Brahmadeva Kruta Ratri Stotram. This is the first one. The second one will come in chapter 4. 5 and then 11. So together, these 4 are the essence of Saptashati. Because we can quickly tell the story and move on. But if we miss what is being told over here, we will not be able to understand what is so powerful about this. And look at the context. Here is Srishti Karta. Brahma is Srishti Karta. He is doing Suktam. He is doing a Stotram and he's saying to the one who is Swadha, to the one who is Swaha, to the one who is Swaratmika, to the one who is Ardhamatra, to her I bow down. And he goes on. This Stotram is incredibly beautiful. I will not go into each portion of the Stotram in the interest of time, but if we do not touch the Stotram at all, it will be an anyayam to people who are sitting here who do Chandi Saptashati Parayana often. So for their sake, at least, we have to take the pearls of a few shlokams from here. And this is the beauty. The idea of Chandi Yajnam, of Chandi Homam that people do, this is a Chandi Homam that we are doing for the next 3 days. Because when you do something and you listen to it with that power, it enters into the body with that same force. And then it becomes a Jnana Yajnam. That Jnana Yajnam is what we are trying to do. Trying to understand what is this stotram that he made and what is so extraordinary about it. So, the first verse that he talks about is what I says, Tvam Swaha, Tvam Swadha. He begins with a very interesting concept. He says, Swaha and Swadha. Have you heard these words anywhere? When we perform a homa, if it is a Devata Sambandha homa, it is Swaha. If it is a Pitru Sambandha homa, we use the word Swadha. Right? Here, what Brahmadeva says is, you are the one who is taking. So what we mean by Swaha and Swadha is, Swaha and Swadha are two forces, two Shaktis. When we say the word Swaha, Indraya Swaha, it means, oh Swaha Devi, please take this and please give it to Indra. You say this for Pitru Devatas and you say Swadha. Swadha is that force who will go and transfer it over there. It is the divine postal system, you can say. So Swaha and Swadha are both forces. You are those forces, Amma. You are Swaratmika. So through Swaha and Swadha, he is telling you about Yajnam. And Yajnam happens through what? It happens through Mantram. Mantram depends on what? Swaram. Because you have to pronounce that. You have to say it in the right Swaram. So, when people are saying something in a Yajnam, that is also you. What they are offering inside, that is also you. The one who pulls that out and says, yes, I will go and give it to that respective Devata, that is also you. And then he says, you are that Swaratmika and you are that Ardhamatra. You are the source from where all this began. Look at this beauty. He's talking about Yajnam, the sound or the power of sound that we use in a Yajnam, and goes back to sound and says, you are the original primordial sound, which is Omkara. Brahmadeva is giving the reverse order of Srishti. Srishti starts with Omkaram, with Pranavam. From Pranavam came the Trigunas. From the Trigunas came the Panchabhutas. From the Panchabhutas came the Srishti. From the Srishti came Yajnam. From Yajnam we again go back to Devatas. He gave the reverse order here. So this shlokam is very, very beautiful. And as he goes on, Brahmadeva understands who he is doing stuti to. That is the beauty of the shlokam. He says one thing. He says, Mahadevi. Now comes the title song. Mahadevi, he said. This is called Devi Mahatmyam. So the word Devi is a very, very interesting word. I'll come to that later. Mahadevi, great goddess. Mahasuri. I'll break it down. Mahasuri. What does it mean? Great Rakshasi. Brahmadeva knows who is doing stuti to, and he just says, great goddess, great Rakshasi. This is where Chandi Mahatmyam begins. Devi Mahatmyam begins here. When we look at this universe, for us, the way we are comfortable thinking is Devi is only giving us happy, wonderful experiences. No, not what Sanatana Dharma says. Sanatana Dharma is saying she is there in the beautiful, she is there in the ugly, she is there in the good, she is there in the bad. The Shaktis that support you, Devatas, the Shaktis that oppose you, Rakshasas. This is how we think. If we don't like someone, we'll say, hey, Rakshasa uno. Avuna, un Devata nange. Buddhi. She is there in both. Sanatana Dharma is not telling you only in the lovely things she is there. In Srishti, whatever brings us joy, whatever brings us happiness, we call as Aghora, because it's not threatening us. Whatever we don't like, whatever we feel repelled by, we call it as Ghora. But Paramatma is both. Aghorebhyo, taghorebhyo, ghora ghora tarebhyaha. So what is the point of this stotram? The point of this stotram is acknowledgement in our lives that the pleasant and the unpleasant, both are you. You are there in the unpleasant moments also. If I am experiencing something unpleasant, Amma, you are there. What happens to a person who sees her in both these states, is that she takes you beyond both of them. That's one. Second is, when you see her in an unpleasant experience, you will bow down to that unpleasant experience and say, this is also you, but don't harm me. Then she will not harm you through that unpleasant experience. Many of you would be familiar with the Rudram, the Rudra Namakam. In the Rudra Namaka mantras, one entire Anuvakam is dedicated to Rudra, who is in the form of thieves. And Vedam has done so much research on this. It says, to Rudra who is in the form of thieves who steal occasionally, to Rudra who is in the form of thieves who steal regularly, to Rudra who is in the form of thieves that come at night, come at day, who are near me. All of them, the Rudram is doing a namaskaram to thieves, to burglars, to murderers. Why? Because it's accepting that they're there in this universe. They will always be there. But when you do a namaskaram to Rudra or to Devi, if she's there in that form, she will not harm you. That is the reason you do a namaskaram and say Mahadevi, Mahasuri. You are Mahasuri. Don't harm me as Mahasuri. That is all I ask you for. So, he goes on with this stotram and he says one beautiful line in this. He says, Amma, we are all deluded by your power. Because of your power, Vishnu is sleeping. Madhu and Kaitabha have come. Now they're attacking me. Prabodham cha Jagat Swami. Let that Jagat Swami wake up. Because only if you leave his body can he wake up. Only if he wakes up can he kill Madhu and Kaitabha. So do that, Amma. And as soon as he says this, the stotram finishes and from Vishnu's eyes. First thing they mention is from Vishnu's eyes. Because the opening of eyes is always symbolic of Srishti. That is what we see in the case of life as well, right? We wait for people to open their eyes to count that as the beginning of life. We wait. Even in a painting, if you look at Kerala murals, and even when the Durga idols are made in Bengal, it is the Netron Milinam, the dot that is put into the eye, that is counted. Because from then, the Vigraham has pranam. Opening of eyes. All her work is with eyes only. That's why they called her Kamakshi, Meenakshi, Vishalakshi, Shatakshi, Divyakshi. Any Akshi. That Shakti is all in the eyes. So, the first place she leaves is his eyes. So, his eyes wake up. That's how you recognize that somebody is awake. So now, from his eyes, from his hridayam, from his ears, from his nasikam, all those parts, she leaves. And now Vishnu stirs. When Vishnu stirs into action, immediately he looks and he sees Madhu and Kaitabha. He sees Brahmadeva, who is in deep agitation. But is Brahmadeva in agitation? Brahmadeva made a stuti. She came and answered that stuti. She left. Now Vishnu looked at Madhu and Kaitabha and he said, okay, let's have a war. So, this is what Madhu and Kaitabha wanted. They're so happy. And this war is going on. Not 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, like our discourse. 5,000 years it went on for. Now, Brahmadeva thought to himself. This you don't find in the Chandi Saptashati. You find it in another Puranam that says, when it had to start, for him to wake up Vishnu, he needed her help. Now, for this task to find completion also, he needs her help again. So he prays again to her and he says, Amma, do something so that the war finishes. For any of us, when we take up a task, we take it up with the intention that the task should complete. Nobody enjoys continuing the task forever and ever. The point is it should reach that point of completion. So, in this moment, 5,000 years have passed and suddenly something happens. Not to Vishnu. Vishnu is continuing to fight. Brahmadeva is concerned. Al Srishti agbekappa. I have to create Srishti. This Vishnu is busy here with this. So please let something happen. And something extraordinary happens. Madhu and Kaitabha look at each other and say, Papa, now Ibru, avnobne. 2 of us, 1 of him. Shall we give him one blessing? For people who are fighting for 5,000 years, nothing happened. Suddenly, in one moment, they're thinking to themselves, Papa, so sad. Mahamaya. You think, I'm so great. Look at both of us, no? What can I do for you? That feeling of superiority when it comes, no, it means she has deluded you. That is why there is a very beautiful shlokam here that comes, a very important shlokam that says, Jnani namapi chetamsi. Sumedha says this shlokam. Why? Because Surata said, Jnani namapi. We are Jnaninams. We are Jnanis. And Sumedha says, Jnani namapi chetamsi Devi Bhagavati hisa balada krushya mohaya Mahamaya prayachati. To people who declare, yes, I am a Jnani, nothing bothers me. To them she will say, oh really? And she will put that Maya Pasham. That Maya Pasham is so strong that you will get pulled by it. Nobody. Devi Bhagavati hisa balada krushya mohaya. She pulls with strength. She's the real Sharapova, okay? She has extraordinary strength and nobody can resist that pull. Balada Krushya Mohaya Mahamaya Prayachati. She will test and see, let me see how much Maya you have truly gone over. So, Madhu and Kaitabha, completely deluded by her Maya, saying, ask for a boon. Imagine the arrogance to look at Paramatma and say, you ask for a boon. It's not with love, it's with arrogance that they do it. So Paramatma, if you think you are Medhavi, is Mahamedhavi. So Mahamedhavi responds and he says, okay, you want to give me a boon, no? Vishnu didn't say, you think you will give me a boon? You know who I am? No, he said, okay, give me a boon. This is Paramatma. You should die in my hands. They asked for their own death. But Rajo Buddhi and Tamo Buddhi, they keep working constantly round the clock. They get best performance award also in any company because they're constantly working without a break. So Rajo Buddhi, immediately they look around. When I describe the scene to you, what did I say is there all around? Water, jalam, apaha. So immediately they say, okay, we can die at your hands, but you should kill us in a place where there is no water. Vishnu said, Tathastu. Vishnu became big, took Madhu and Kaitabha, put them on his thighs, and with the Sudarshana Chakram, end of story. This is the Prathama Charitram. We'll go home now. Why is this story being told? Let's look at the beautiful analogies here. What names? What did I say one Rakshasa's name is? One is Kaitabha. What is the other one? Have you heard this name? How many of you are familiar with Vishnu Sahasranamam? There are some names. There's some... Don't worry, even if you're not, I'll build the context. But if you're familiar, you'll catch on to this. The word Madhu comes a minimum of 3 times in the Sahasranamam. Madhavo Madhuhu, Madhavo Madhusudhanaha, Madhavo Bhaktavatsala also comes. So, but I'll come to Bhaktavatsala in a minute. Madhu and Madhusudana. Vishnu killed this Rakshasa called Madhu, so he is Madhusudana. Correct? But then we are calling him Madhu. What does that mean? The same Sahasranamam says that you killed Madhu. Oh, by the way, you are also Madhu. Just same name. It's like 2 Srinivas Raos. That's all it means. You're Srinivas Rao who killed Srinivas Rao. Sahasranamam, we are not reading it like that. We're not pausing to think, why is the same name coming in absolutely contradicting contexts? Because here, let's look at this beautiful nomenclature. Madhu means what? Honey. Honey's nature is what? How does it taste? We're all agreeing on that. So, in Ayurveda, anything that is sweet, anything that is moderately sweet is considered as sattvic. If it becomes hyper sweet, means you put 1 kg of sugar into something that doesn't need it, it becomes tamasic. So, Madhu becomes deeply tamasic. Now, look at this concept of Madhu. 1 drop of honey you put on the ground. In 2 minutes, from directions you wouldn't have imagined, ants will come. Kitakas will come. Kitakasya bhavam Kaitabha. Many insects around them are personified as one Kaitabha. This is also beautifully interpreted as Madhu is the sweetness of I, saying me. When you have 1 I, you will have many my's. I am so and so. My family, my children, my bank account, my job, my security, my this. All those my are all Kitaka, combinedly called as Kaitabha. So Madhu and Kaitabha are Aham and Mama. This is all mine. These are all those insects that come. Now, this is one interpretation. But Madhu is honey. Which insect comes around honey typically? The bee. Have you ever seen the bee quietly sitting? It's buzzing all the time. If Madhu is that tamasa, that hyper sweet honey, that bee is the buzzing Kaitabha. Bzz, what should we do? What should we do? What should we do? My mind is not happy. My mind is not happy. My mind is not happy. It doesn't let the mind sit down. This is Rajogunam and Tamogunam. So, it is Tamogunam that started this whole thing. And to remove Tamogunam, Devi had to come as Mahatamasa Shakti. That Mahatamasa Shakti, we didn't give her a name only till now. We just said Nidra Devi. That Mahatamasa Shakti who left Vishnu's body came as Mahakali. That is the Prathama Charitram over here. That within us, when that Tamogunam comes, the Divya Tamogunam will come and say, you think you know it all? Look at me and look at what I'm capable of. Look at how you are under my control, and I will delude you to your own end. We have a very beautiful saying in Sanskritam, which is Vinashakale Viprita Buddhi. Some people, they don't even realize it. They do stupid things leading to their own downfall. This happens, especially you'll notice this to people that are drunk with power. This is because she deludes them. Saying, yeah, you think it's your kalam, it's working. This is exactly what happened to Ravana. Exactly what happened to Kumbhakarna. Deluded by power. You don't recognize what that arrogance is doing to you. But in this mind, in this case, Madhu Kaitabha is separate, Brahma is separate. But in our case, all three are in one place. So, when these things are going on, Brahmadeva alone, Sattva Buddhi alone has the power to say, Amma, please protect me. My mind is going, Amma, somewhere. My mind is getting distracted. My mind is becoming arrogant. Stop it. Then she will come and do her job. This is beautifully shown in Mahakali Charitram. Now, I will go back to what I said about three names. Madhavo Madhuhu, Madhavo Madhusudanaha, Madhavo Bhaktavatsalaha. Why are we using the words Madhu and Madhusudana? Madhusudana is, you destroy this Aham Bhavam. You make me recognize that there is only one joy in this universe, and that is Brahmanandam, Anandam, and that joy is the truest sweet that we can experience. That is Madhu as Narayana. So Madhusudana on one hand, but that Madhava is also Madhu. Who does he do this for? Only if you go to him and pray with that heart saying, remove these things, I'm tormented by samsara, I'm deluded by all these forces, then he will become Bhaktavatsala for you and then do this. That's why Madhavo Madhuhu, Madhavo Madhusudana, Madhavo Bhaktavatsala. It actually comes in the reverse order. First comes Madhavo Madhusudana, then comes Madhavo Madhuhu. But for that to happen, you have to ask. Because until you ask, nobody will give. That exactly is what happened in Arjuna Vishada Yogam also. One whole chapter he went on. Krishna listened patiently. Finally he said, Krishna, what should I do? Here also, Surata and Samadhi, finally they asked, after saying we're very extraordinary jnanis, when they said, what should we do? Then he started. A guru will not tell you what to do until you ask. This is the first. Brahmadeva, until he asked, that stuti did not happen. Until that stuti came, she didn't come. She didn't just come and say, yeah, does anybody need me? Because that is divinity. Divinity is always around, but it's waiting for you to make the first move. So in that beautiful, beautiful context, Mahakali Charitram comes to a conclusion. Now as Mahakali Charitram comes to a conclusion, I said in the beginning that these are three personal stories that he is telling. This story is for both of them together. This story is because he's telling them, you both are deluded by that same power. That power is deluding the Devatas. It's deluding the Rakshasas. So will it not delude you? That power is making you think, Samadhi, that power is making you think, oh, it's my family. But Papa, at the end of the day, they're my folks. That is that power. This is not your true family. Your true Bandhu is your Atma Bandhu. And Surata, you think you're so concerned about your elephant sitting over there. This is typically seen with people who get separated from their loved ones. I don't know if my child in the US has eaten or not. Poor fellow, it's been 3 days since he called. Nicely, he'll be partying. So you don't need to have bonds that will bind you and keep you stuck there. Those are necessary. But they are necessary up to a point. So this is what he's telling them, saying there is a cosmic power. So if you get deluded also, no, recognize that Maya is working inside you. That Maya is so beautiful that she doesn't keep doing this. She's not a cruel, torturing. Her nature is not this. Because that Maya is extremely kind. But that Maya is also extremely intelligent. She knows what to do with who. I've given this example many, many times earlier, and I'll give it again because it's relevant now. There is someone who is frying vadas. So once she places the batter into the hot oil, she continues to fry. Now some vadas she'll take out, some will remain inside. Which ones will she take out? The ones that are ripe, or the ones that are cooked. Which ones will she leave? The ones that are raw. That is exactly what Mahamaya is doing. She's keeping us all in samsara, and as long as we need to get cooked and to get that firmness of character, we will remain here. The second she recognizes, this being he's done because he said, Amma, take me into you. She'll take that vada out and she'll keep it. So now whether you remember anything else or not, you will think of Mahamaya next time you eat a vada. I'm glad. That bhavam, she is frying us in this cauldron called kalam. The cauldron itself is time. The oil is the experiences. The experiences are burning us. It's hot oil. She's burning us again and again and again and again inside that same thing until we show signs of readiness saying, Amma, now I have understood. I'm cooked. I'm ready to go on. Surata and Samadhi are being given their first sandesham saying, don't get so attached. Because when you do, you will remain in this chakram until you seek escaping. Sounds like Bhagavad Gita only, no? It is Bhagavad Gita. That is why. So from here starts another extraordinary Charitram. This particular stotram, this particular Charitram is just one. It's one chapter. The split of Chandi Mahatmyam is very interesting. It is 3 Charitrams. The first is Mahakali. Now if you paid attention to the story, Mahakali does not make a physical appearance at all. At all. There is a Dhyana Shlokam that comes at the beginning of the Charitram describing her form, but that Dhyana Shlokam does not belong to the actual Mahatmyam. It comes from certain Tantric Shastras that are placed there. Then for every chapter also you have a Dhyana Shlokam. But that is an Upasana Prakriya. That is a context pertaining to when you worship. Then why did Mahakali's name come here? So Mahakali, Mahalakshmi and Mahasaraswati. These are the 3 Devis whose Charitras we are learning about. But either I've just scammed you terribly because I just told you Mahakali Charitram and Mahakali didn't come, or the Purana Veda has a different idea of who Mahakali is. So they chose to name this portion as Mahakali Charitram, and the next portion they chose to name as Mahalakshmi Charitram. So look at this beautiful krama, okay, this beautiful order. Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. On day 3, we will decode why this sequence was chosen. The first one is just one chapter. The next one is chapter 2, 3 and 4 of the book. The last one, that is Mahasaraswati's Charitram, is chapter 5 to about chapter 11. 12 and 13 are the Phalashrutis. So it is effectively about 6 chapters long. So 1, 3 and then 6. The structure is very, very different. The objective is, Gita also he could have finished in one sentence saying, you are not the doer, you just do quietly, anyway they will die. But he took 700 shlokas. Because the human mind keeps returning to the same thing. It's our nature is to sit, process something, go back into samsara, and again get stuck into the same thing. That is the vada being cooked. Okay? And that keeps happening repeatedly. So there are times when a guru will expand the same thing. And it is Sumedha's bhagyam that he had wonderful shishyas, because when he sat down for the next story, they'll not be like, yeah, idella nan gottu. Please, you tell something else, no? Because sometimes the same lessons need to go back in. The same foundations have to be resorted, saying, okay, I know this, but am I feeling it? I know it's Mahamaya, but I'm not feeling it. Sometimes that may not be solace. Sometimes the rahasyams go deeper. That is why this Charitram was for both of them together, saying, Maya is deluding you. Do a namaskaram to that Maya. She will not delude you. The second is, this story is for a king. That king who was thrown out of his own kingdom. So, the story starts off with a Rakshasa called Mahishasura. Mahishasura took Indra's throne. That's how the story begins. Here is something interesting. Because this story is mirroring what the king is going through. Through this message, Surata is being told, this keeps happening. This is the nature of royalty. This is the nature of politics. Any public profession will see you at its peak at some time. Then someone else will replace you. Then there will be a tussle. It's what happens at a cosmic level. It's what happens at a prapanchika level as well. Don't get so affected by it. That is his first message to him. And he begins this beautiful Charitram. Now the interesting thing here it is Mahalakshmi Charitram. But this is not Vishnu Patni Lakshmi that comes here. But we'll decode this later. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I'm keeping note of what all I'm saying this for. So begins the story, a very, very well-known story. But our objective for the next 3 days is to take the well-known aspects, the well-known stories, and find the lesser-known aspects in them. The joy is, most of us are familiar with this. Because we know the idea of Durga killing Mahishasura. It is a very well-known concept. But the story has so many points that we will pause and we will look at. Because I want to give this disclaimer now. I will not be spending time on every minute in the war. Because that is known to us of how she ultimately kills him. But what are the circumstances that lead to the arrival of divinity? That is what we have to look out for. Because if we look out for that, that is a possibility in our own lives saying, oh, and under these circumstances in my journey, in my personal journey, God will come for me. That is the reassurance that a bhakta is being given. So, when the tables turn on your fortune, if you are in a terrible state, this story comes for you. That is what he's telling him. He's telling him a story. Imagine somebody who's gone and said, they've thrown me out of the house, and you're telling him a story. You're telling him not a jadakatha. It is not a story that is powerless. It is Brahma. It is Parabrahma Katha. Parabrahma Katha is vibrating with Chaitanya. That's why I said we're sitting here, knowingly or unknowingly, we are visualizing these scenes. Knowingly or unknowingly, it is a Chandi Yagam only that is happening. So whatever happened there for Surata and Samadhi, for Brahma Deva, and now for Indra and the other devatas, that can happen for us. All we have to do is listen. So, Mahishasura has taken over Indraloka. Once Mahishasura has taken Indraloka, Indra comes to Brahma. Indra, Agni, Varuna, Vayu, all of them go to Brahmadeva. They go to Prajapati. The word used in this portion of the Saptashati is Prajapati. Prajapati here refers to the mind. What this means is all the gods are responsible for different functions in the mind, different functions in the body. All the Indriyas are governed by different devatas. The ruler of all of them is called as Indra. So one god for speech, one god for our sight, one god for our touch, and so on and so forth. All of these have been taken over by who? What is Mahisha? Buffalo. That is his actual name. That only they gave it Namakaranam. Any mother will actually name her child. Buffalo tara, yemme tara idane. What is the Puranic terminology? Why? The problem is we're not pausing to think about that. Why have they taken the name of a buffalo? Not difficult at all to understand. Have you ever tried to cross a road and seen a buffalo there? Have you tried to cross a buffalo? You know what will happen? You will have to move. The buffalo will not move. Inertia. Inertia has taken over the whole body. That inertia is Mahisha. It is not a disrespect to the animal jati. They have taken that quality of an animal and they have built it as a metaphor for something. That inertia has acquired an asura buddhi. What this means is, inertia means it will sit right there. You have to move, I will not move. That is inertia, tamogunam. Asura buddhi means I care about me and myself. The only objective of me living is I should be happy. I don't give anything, any concern to anyone else. That is asura buddhi. All of us have it at some point. When we're obsessed with our earnings, our life, I should be happy. I don't care. Even if I upset him by saying this, I'll say it, but I should be happy. That is asura gunam. Imagine these two things together. One inert buffalo thinking, I should be happy. No one else on this road should be happy. That buffalo will wreak havoc in your body. That is what Mahisha is doing. So Mahisha has taken over the senses. And when that takes over the senses are feeling powerless. The senses are feeling, ayyo. Some senses are also being bothered by external and internal factors. And when this happens, what does one do? One goes to the mind and says, I don't know what to do. The mind is Prajapati, Brahmadeva. All the devatas are going to him and saying, I don't know what to do, Swami. What should we do? Immediately Brahmadeva says, let us go and seek a guru. That guru, if you're a Shiva Bhakta, it is Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. If you're a Vishnu Bhakta, it is Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. And the interesting thing is in the story, they go to a place where both the gurus are there together. Shiva and Vishnu both are at the same place. Again, Chandi Saptashati is saying, don't be obsessed. Because in this point, the question is not, which sampradaya is yours? When somebody is sharing Bhagavat Jnanam or Bhagavat Katha or Bhagavat Yajnam is happening, the first question you should not be asking is, Avru Namma Orena? What is happening there is something connecting to Paramatma. It doesn't matter whether it is Nammauru or not Nammauru. And when it comes to Paramatma, every bhakta is Nammauru. That's the ultimate message there that is hidden. So, here also, this is exactly what's happening. They go to a place where both these gurus are present. And now, all of what Mahishasura has done is being told to Vishnu and Shiva. That Mahisha has taken over Indralokam. That Mahisha has stopped Dharma. Replace the words Mahisha with inertia and sensual explosion. That within the body, there is only inertia and there is only a desire to keep myself happy. That has taken over the whole body. And now, there is absolute chaos in the body. Imagine if we lived one day in our life like this, where we don't know what is happening, but something is going wrong. We don't know why we are acting a certain way. That is Mahishasura. And when that happens, all of this is being told. All the adharmas that Mahishasura is doing is being told. This is the point we have to hold on into in the story. When Vishnu and Shiva hear this, they become angry. Here is something to think about. Humans means we become angry. Anger is supposed to be tanakopame tanashatru, as we say. Your anger is your enemy. But here gods are getting angry. What does this mean? The idea that adharma makes Paramatma angry. That if that consciousness within us, that Parabrahma within us also becomes angry. This is one aspect. Second is, if you want to see the complete expression of somebody's power, you know when you will see it? When they are angry. Because the same hand that gently touches you and says, are you well? When it shows its complete power is not this, is when it does this. Anger is the complete expression of Shakti. So now Vishnu and Shiva become angry. That anger is a divyam. It is divyam in its nature. And that kopam also in Sanskritam, the word chanda comes from kopa, from that dhatu. So hence this is called Chandi Saptashati, but Chandi has another meaning which I will come to in some time. That anger, now coming back to the story, that anger starts to come out from Brahma and Vishnu. So from Vishnu and Shiva. And the way it comes out is, it comes from their Agnya Chakram. So their eyes are closed when they are listening to all of what Mahishasura is doing, and that makes them angry, and that anger grows to a point that a Jyoti comes out from them. From Shiva it comes. Vishnu's Jyoti also comes and lands there. And then the Devatas realize, okay, something extraordinary is happening. We need to follow suit. So they also close their eyes. And without them realizing, the Shakti that is inside them, the complete Shakti that expresses itself as anger, comes out now and it joins this. This is the idea. Have you ever, anybody seen anyone shaking in anger? That's what that power is inside the body. If it is used for right purposes, anger is phenomenal. That is where the anger that you see, a harmless indie on the street will not touch you on an ordinary day. But if you try to touch her puppies, all the anger she has will come out. In that moment, she will not look at her physical strength or how frail she is. She will come and bite you. This is that kind of an anger. The anger that Paramatma has, because Paramatma's children are being harmed by that Mahishasura, that anger comes out for them. And all the Devatas, from all of them, their Shakti is going towards one Kendra Sthanam, one central point. Now, from this came one Shakti. Now the beauty is, this Shakti that came is an extraordinary Shakti. And the way she came from all of them. So was she their daughter? Does she belong to them? No. Mahatmyam is saying, the Shakti that was inside them now came outside of them. That is why you cannot say this goddess has a birth. This goddess has an arrival. She has an entry, but it's not a birth. And from which Devata, which body part came is described here. As that Jyoti, collectively from all the Devatas sitting in a circle, from all of them there is one Jyoti Punjam. Apatalana bhastalanta bhuvanam brahmandam avispurat jyotis partikalingam aulivilasat purnendu vantamrutaihi is what we say in Rudram. Apatalana bhastalanta bhuvana. From Patala till Nabha, from Chaturdasha lokas are covered with that light. That's how it's beaming. And that light, this portion of Mahatmyam is a dhyanam. If you close your eyes and you visualize it, from this Jyoti Punjam, from this pillar of light, a human, or it's not right to say human, but a divine form came into being. From head to toe, which Devata's energy gave rise to which form, they have given a detail of. And what that signifies also they have said, but we are in Navaratri. There cannot be a better time to do a dhyanam of that. So let us take a few minutes to actually sit down and process and imagine for ourselves. So if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes for this portion, where you just visualize that Jyoti Punjam from all the devatas that are seated around, beginning with Vishnu and Shiva, and how from each one of them, that Jyoti went into the center. Once that Jyoti went into the center, from each portion of that Jyoti, something extraordinary came. Starting with the hair, which was the very first thing that they saw. The hair of that divine being came from Yama. Dark locks of hair, glowing with the stars as ornaments. From Shiva, the face of that being emerged. The face of that being glowing like a full moon. From Vishnu came the arms of that being. Long arms, not one, not two, but 18 arms. She came and stretched out. Going back to that beautiful face which glows like a full moon, as it emerged, it smiled, and the teeth were seen. Those teeth came from Prajapati. That form slowly opened her eyes, those eyes that were given by Agni Devata. And as her eyes opened, her eyebrows also moved. Those eyebrows were given by Sandhya Devatas. She inhaled, and as she inhaled, galaxies went inside her nostrils. Those nostrils, that nose, was given by Kubera. Those outstretched 18 arms, Ashtadasha Bhujas, as she spread them out, the fingers of them stretched, and those fingers were given by the Vasudevatas. In the central portion of her body, her Vakshasthalam, her bosom, her breasts were given by Chandra. From Chandra's Jyoti came those breasts. As the rest of her entire being was visible for them to see, from Varuna Devata came such strong thighs that were so firm. And then they looked at the feet of this goddess that were red in color, Sakalam Arunabham. Those red feet were given by Brahmadeva, and the tips of those toes of those feet, which were glowing like a million suns, were given by Surya. This form, as that complete Jyotipunjam, that pillar of light became this form now stood and watched as each Devata came and gave something and placed it into her hands. Shiva was the first to come. From his Trishulam, he took out one more Trishulam and he placed it into her hands. Vishnu came next and placed the Sudarshana Chakram, an identical of his own Sudarshana Chakram, into her hands. Varuna came and he gave a Shankham from the waters that he owned. Next came Agni, who gave a lance to her. In her other hand, she now took a bow and an arrow, which were given by Vayudeva. Then came Indra, who gave two things to her: the Vajrayudham, the thunderbolt, and a ghantam, a bell that was resounding. Next came Yama, and as Yama came, he took his dandam, the Yamadandam, that scepter with which he rules all of us and rules all of time, and he gave her an identical dandam to hold. After this, Varuna came again and gave a pasham, a noose for her to hold. Brahma came now and gave a kamandalu with all the Divya Jalam, all the Nadi Jalams of all the rivers that ever flowed and ever will flow on this earth. And Suryadeva now came and looked at her form, and Suryadeva took his rays and he planted his rays into every pore of her body, and she began to glow like 1,000 suns, Koti Surya Samaprabha. Kaladeva, the ruler of time, came and he gave her a sword which she picked up and she stirred, and the Ksheerasagara came. Ksheerasagara came gifting her a lotus garland, and he put that lotus garland on her and put ornaments onto her, onto every portion of her body, starting with the kiritam till her anklets and her toe rings. Next came Vishwakarma, the celestial architect, and Vishwakarma placed into her hands the parashu, or an axe, and a kavacham, an armor that will never allow anything to pierce her. Then came the ocean, and the ocean placed into her hands a lotus, a Padma, which she held. Then came the king of the mountains, her father, Himavan, and Himavan gave her a mount. He gave her the Simhavahanam to be seated on. Kubera came next and gave her a patram, a container, a bowl, for which she could drink something from, a pana patram. And Adisesha also walked in. And Adisesha, who has a money on top of his head, he gave her a mala full of manis, of glowing gems. He placed it onto her. Now, this goddess, holding 18 ayudhas in her 18 hands, seated on that lion, looked around, and sa attahasam muhurmuhu, says the Saptashati. She laughed such a thunderous laugh that sitting here in the mountains where she emerged, somewhere else in Mahishasura Uru, he heard that laugh, because that laugh was so powerful that it clouded and it thundered across the three worlds. All the devatas were in great rapture, listening to the sound of that laugh, because it meant safety and protection for them. But all the Rakshasas heard that laugh and wondered, is death coming in a female laugh for us? Now look at this Swarupam that you see, this Swarupam that emerged in your Dhyanam. Even if you had an inkling of it, even if it briefly emerged, know that it is not your imagination. It is that Jyoti Swarupini that came into your consciousness. And as she did, the Swarupam that she had, the Devatas were looking at, and they were so amazed, because this goddess did not come now. This goddess is eternal. She took a form now. She took a form from their collective Swarupams, and all the Ayudhas that they had, they went and placed an identical of that into her hand, which is symbolic of saying, Amma, you are the Shakti inside our body. You are the Shakti in our Ayudham. Now we are offering that Shakti back to you. This is Ayudha Puja in its truest sense. If you understand this, you'll understand why we do Ayudha Puja during Dashara. We are recognizing what is that Divya Shakti which is working in this Ayudham. In a car, it is the ability to go on the road. In a vessel, it is the ability to hold whatever you pour into it. In a book, it is the ability to hold knowledge. In an instrument, it is the ability to generate music or sound. All of that, that Shakti which is pervading the cosmos, which is in everything, that Shakti has now come in front of me. All I have to do is Namaskaram and offer that Shakti back to Adi Shakti. This is Adi Shakti Avataram. And as Adi Shakti came, look at this moment. She is the one that is ruling the cosmos. So in Sanskritam, she is called as Ishwari. And as she does that, she is glowing. I said it's an Agni Bunjam. She is a beam of light. Agni has a beautiful lakshanam to it. When Agni is burning, you don't need to put a torch onto Agni and say, Agni, please glow. Agni's nature is Swayam Prakasham. Just like the word Swabha. That idea that it glows by itself, self-luminous. Paramatma is that. Paramatma does not need Surya, Chandra, Agni or a torch. He glows by himself. In this case, Paramatma Swarupini is glowing by herself. And that Swarupini, as she is glowing, she is called as Devi. Devi means Swayam Prakasha Swarupini. Deva is the Pulingam, the male version of the same thing. This goddess is present in each one of them. In Agni, she is present as the ability to burn. In Vishnu, she is present as the ability to sustain and to kill. In Shiva, she is present as the ability to dissolve. In Varuna, she is present as the ability for him to take things into his waters. Any Devata, every Devata that is present, she is their Shakti. This Swarupam, collectively, Shakti. How do you recognize somebody's Shakti? Based on what they have. What they have is their Lakshana Shakti. You recognize a musician based on their characteristic, their ability to sing. Their ability to sing is called as their Lakshana Shakti. The source of that is called as Lakshmi. So this goddess, this Lakshmi, is so extraordinary that as she steps out now, she is sitting there on the lion in that Swarupam, and she is extremely powerful. That Rupam is so powerful. If it entered your Dhyanam, you'll know this now. That Rupam, to even contemplate or visualize that, is an extraordinary Rupam. It is worship worthy. It is pujaniyam. It is puja. Thinking of that, if you sat here and you thought about that Swarupam, it is capable of removing issues that we are going through in life. It is because she is capable of patakanashini. She can remove those kind of patakas. That Swarupam herself deluded the world. Let's not forget episode number 1. She deluded the world as Maya because she is the greatest Shakti. And that Shakti herself is extremely untouched by all of this. She is Sattva Swarupini. She has extreme intelligence. She has great buddhi. She has great Shakti. She is the goddess that controls the mind of controlled beings. What I took this long to describe, no? Actually are all reading this every day. Maheshwari, Mahadevi, Mahalakshmi and Mahasaraswati, Maharupa, Mahapujya, Mahapatakanashini, Mahamaya, Mahasattva, Mahashaktir, Maharatihi, Mahabhoga, Maheshwarya, Mahavirya, Mahabala, Mahabuddhir, Mahasiddhir, Mahayogeshwareshwari. What is this? We are discussing Chandi Saptashati. Where to Lalita Dasnam ke? What can I do? When she is sitting here, that only will come. This is the idea. When you are reading, read with that bhavam. When you are reading the words Maha, this is why I gave you such a prelude to the word Maha. When you think of the word Maha, don't think of great. It is an incomparable great. So they said Maharupa, Mahapujya, Mahapatakanashini, Mahamaya, Mahasattva. You can read it with that feeling of greatness. That, oh my God, they're describing something which is indescribable. Anirvachaniya Parabrahma. That which cannot be described, the closest we can go is saying so great, so great. We see this on a daily basis. If we eat something that we like, we become that ecstatic. It's great, kano. That great here is Maha. That Swarupam came. What is the name of the Swarupam that came? There was no name. They just said Devi. Mahatmyam. The Mahatmyam of Mahatmyam is here. What do we know the Swarupam to be? But the Swarupam that went on from here to kill Mahishasura? What's her name? Durga? Chamundi? Durga? But none of those names came here. The Rahasyam is here. As soon as she emerged in this form, like I said, she gave a thunderous roar. And Attahasam. Attahasam is done when you want to ridicule the enemy. When somebody is shouting at you and you laugh at them, you see how they'll feel. They feel ridiculed and embarrassed. That is what she did here. But this Swarupam was not given a name. Why? Because Mahatmyam is telling you this is a Swarupam that is Trigunatita Sthiti. But she takes a name. We all know that name. That name is Durga. That Swarupam that comes out from here is Durga. But the beautiful thing about this name is what she has come to do. In the previous case, she had to leave Vishnu's body for Vishnu to kill Madhu and Kaitabha. In this case, she had to come directly. She had to emerge and take a form. That is because this Swarupam is an extraordinary Swarupam. This Swarupam is capable to directly come into our lives in any form that we may or may not recognize, and she will remove anything that is du. What? Can you think of some Sanskritam words with the word du? Dushta, Dukkha, Durgati, Durmati, Durbuddhi, Duswapnam, Durlabha, Durachara. Everything do is many a time used in the context of negativity. The one who can take all of that negativity with one laughter alone, she is called as Durga. That is what they mean over here. That is why she came and she took a form over here. And that Swarupam of Durga is such an extraordinary Swarupam that in another Grantham, there are 32 names, all starting with that syllable du. Because this is one Rahasyam, that any Dukkham, Duritam, Dushkritam, any kind of do in our lives, she can remove and take it away completely. That is one. Second, this is a bija akshara. Bija akshara is an extremely potent akshara, an akshara that is vibrating with Paramatma. That akshara is in Durga's mantram. Aksharas and mantras, bija aksharas and mantras cannot be discussed on public platforms, but the bijam, the seed version of it is present in the name Durga. That is why we have another beautiful text that gives us 32 names of the goddess, of this goddess Durga, all starting with that syllable of Du. Thinking of her as Durga. That is why saying the name Jaya Durge, Jaya Durge, Jaya Durge 3 times will give you strength in a moment that you find yourself weak. This is the power of that name. I have seen this out of personal experience, and I say this, that it is capable of changing what is written for you. That is how powerful that name is. That is why there are 32 extraordinary names of this goddess that we will conclude with, and we will take this into the question of what does this goddess do next. For us to understand that, we need to spend time with the goddess. We need, between today and tomorrow this evening, between tomorrow evening this time, we need that time with this goddess. We go back on that word and say, what is Durga? Who is Durga to me in my life? And when we come back here 24 hours later, she will emerge fully ready to take on that Mahishasura. So before we leave, we will spend time visualizing that form that came to us. What came as an anubhavam, as a brief or a longer experience, our objective is to hold that. And the easiest way to hold Paramatma is through Namam. Namam does not require anything. You just need to keep saying it. Between today and tomorrow, how many ever times you say Durga, you don't need to worry. After I say Durga, do I need to offer Sundal Prasadam? After I need to do nothing. Just Durga, Durga, Durga. Durgati Nashini, Durge Jai Jai. That's all. Durga will remove Durgatis, not just for you. Namajapam is not ordinary. We've taken it and we've treated it as something which is less. No, Namajapam, no. I'm actually more into Upanishad classes. Namajapam is not anything less than any other spiritual practice. Namajapam is equal and more. Because Kalau Keshava Kirtanat, in this Yugam, Kirtanam and Namam is the most powerful and the most easy. We don't need anything for it. All we need is an open heart. Say the words Durga multiple times. See what happens to the body. Say Jaya Durge, Jaya Durge. You observe this and come and tell me 24 hours later whether or not when you keep saying Durga, your spinal cord will straighten. There is something in that name. When you say Durga, a certain power enters you. When you say Chandi, nobody says Chandi. Everybody says Chandi. It commands attention. These are not sounds. There is a certain power in here. And that is why these 32 names will leave us with a hint of what that power is. The rest of the sadhana, you carry on from here till we reassemble tomorrow evening. Durga, Durga Tishamani, Durga Padvinivarini, Durga Machedini, Durga Sadhini, Durga Nashini, Durga Todharini, Durga Nihantri, Durga Mapaha, Durga Majnanada, Durga Daitya Loka Davanala, Durga Ma Loka, Durga Matmaswarupini, Durga Marga Prada, Durga Mavidya, Durga Mashrita, Durga Majnana Samsthana, Durga Madhyana Bhasini, Durga Moha, Durga Maga, Durga Mathaswarupini, Durga Masura Samhantri, Durga Mayutadharini, Durga Mangi, Durga Mata, Durga Mya, Durga Meshwari, Durga Bhima, Durga Bhama, Durga Bha, Durga Dharini. May that Durga, who emerged there in Mahakailasa amongst all the devatas, straight from there came into our hearts and our heads today. May that Durga see us from this moment onwards till all the moments that we need to be seen. We will begin again tomorrow. Durga Katha will now resume. The Katha is at a cliffhanger moment. So it will resume tomorrow evening exactly at Sandhya Kalam at 6 o'clock. Until then, may your sadhana keep you afloat. Sarvam Shri Durga Parameshwari Parabrahma Padaravindarpanamastu Swasti.